meeting. This meeting has been posted. Roll call.
Mr. Bowman?
Here.
Mr. Buckmaster?
Here.
Mr. Hyde?
Here.
Mrs. Warwick?
Here.
Mr. Strom?
Here.
I'm present. Mr. Podolsky?
Here.
We're all present.
All right. Item D, Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Buckmaster, will you lead us in the pledge? Sir. Oh, that's over there.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item E, approval of the agenda. Should I get a motion?
So moved.
Should I get a second?
Second.
Could I get somebody to make a amendment to the agenda removing item 3G?
So moved. To remove item 3G.
Second.
And all those in favor of the amended agenda, or the amendment to the agenda, say aye.
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 All those in favor of the agenda as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item 2, project report. Dan, how you doing?
Doing well, how are you?
Good.
Hey, Dan.
How's the snow out there?
It's coming.
Thanks, Dan. Didn't stop.
I didn't turn it on. I would be the one to turn it off either. I'll give you a quick update on Mill Valley and the new middle school. Out at Mill Valley, about a month ago, we turned over 3/4 of the new additions that we're going to be doing out there. Admin office is moved in and relocated, so everything's moving pretty smoothly over there. After the first of the year, we had some minor abatement that had to be done before the building came down. So that was a 2 or 3 day event, and then mass building demo started last week Monday. I think the students enjoyed seeing that last week. I saw quite a few videos, more phones in the background. So we're continuing more of the fine demo at this point, and then we'll roll into pulling out the old foundation. So that'll continue this week and probably into next. And then we're hoping to start footings for the remaining addition by the end of the month. Out at the new middle school, by the end of this month, we should have enclosure wrapped up. The roof should be done. The last of the windows will be in, and we're building one of our last brick walls right now. It'll be wrapped up by the end of the month. The ceramic tile has already started down in the lower level and first floor, area A, to the south of the building. Our epoxy floor contractor started this week, so we're starting to put some of the epoxy floors down in the bathrooms. Painting, ceiling grid, and casework, all of those finished activities are continuing. MEP above ceiling will be already dropping in light fixtures and finishing installation of piping, and we got some above ceiling inspections scheduled for the end of the month. In about a month from now, we should have flooring going in, flooring starting lower level mid-February. That'll continue probably for 2 or 3 months. Once we get the enclosure complete in the rotunda area at the main entrance, and it's downhill from there. We're still over 9 months, still 0 injuries, no lost time accidents on the project. And contingency use, there's still over 800,000 in the contingency balance. We're pretty well there.
Any questions? Thank you for the report.
Okay.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
night.
Thanks.
Drive safe.
Thanks, Dan.
Moving on to item 3, consent agenda. We did, no, we didn't. Consent agenda. Could I get a motion for consent agenda?
So moved.
Actually, just use the motion. Yeah, right. So moved. Could I get a second?
Second.
Any separate items in consent agenda that need questions or separate consideration? Hearing none, all those in favor of consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Looks like we voted on that 3 times. Item 4, student representation. Colin's not here, so we'll move on to public forum. This is your opportunity to address the school board on any issues on operations. I have 3 cards, however, you don't need to fill out a card for public forum, but because we don't have a separate agenda item for the items you're talking about, this would be your opportunity to come and address the school board. You guys, I can bring you up on order here, or you can just come up to the microphone one at a time. Just state your name and address for the record, and I guess we'll start with Scott Cieslak.
Hello, everyone. My name is Scott Cieslak. I live at W131 S8423 Eagles Way. I'm speaking on behalf of Champions Before and After School Care. I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old girl who currently attend Testquarters Elementary and use Champions for before and after school care. My wife and I are extremely happy with the care that Champions provides to our children. We trust their staff wholeheartedly and rest easy knowing our children are in a wonderful and nurturing environment. Our children have grown to know the staff on a personal level and regularly talk about how much fun they had. Miss Chrissy and her staff do a wonderful job. We highly recommend Champions be allowed to continue their program in the new Bailey School. We feel that this continuity of faces and a new school will help our children greatly in the transition to a new environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Juliana?
My name is Juliana Martin. My address is West 187 South 6515 Diamond Drive. And I'm the director at Discovery Days Muskego, and I've been there for 11 and a half years. And Tina is out of town tonight. She's asked me to read the letter to the board that she sent to all of you, but some of the people in the audience have not heard it yet. So. My name is Tina Krause. My husband and I own and operate Discovery Days Child Care Muskego, Wind Lake, and Franklin, in addition to Kids Connection Child Care in McWanago. I'm writing to you today to voice my opinion and concern regarding the administration's recommendation to terminate the before and after school contract for Discovery Days Child Care at Country Meadows, Bailey Elementary next year. I would have attended this meeting in person, but I am out of town and was not aware that this was going to be an agenda item. Therefore, I'm speaking for her. Discovery Days has been under contract with MNSD since we purchased our first center in July of 2000. The previous owners held the contracts before us. We have had a before and after school contract for Country Meadows, Mill Valley, and Muskego Elementary for 18 years. We also contract with the district to run a summer camp, renting an agreed upon elementary school for the summer months. We were part of the initial 4K pilot program, which we have been a trusted partner in for 7 years, providing 4 4K classrooms per year at Discovery Days Muskego and Discovery Days Wind Lake. We value our partnership with the district and feel that we have worked diligently with them to provide a service to our community and the residents we both serve. We are a community-based business that invests in our residents and families through early childhood education, teaming with the high school to employ individuals seeking a career in education, and being a part of many things that make our community desirable. Therefore, I was puzzled to hear that the administration was recommending that Discovery Days be removed from being an on-site provider at Bailey Elementary School for next year, considering our history and partnership we have regarding families and our community, not just within the before and after school setting, but regarding the trusted partnership across the board. I was told the administration felt that the solution, which is to have Champions take over the program at Bailey Elementary, was what they deemed to be the least disruptive to parents. I disagree with the solution and find that not only is the solution disruptive to our families that have built relationship with us for over 18 years, but it will mean a rise in tuition costs for Discovery Days families. Discovery Days has approximately 150 kids enrolled in our programs at Country Meadows, Muskego Elementary, and Mill Valley. With the redistricting, 96 of our current clients will go to Mill Valley and 52 will remain at Bailey Elementary, and 6 will head to Lakeview. I was told that Champions has 72 children enrolled that will transfer to Bailey Elementary. Therefore, Champions will more likely receive the 52 children we have enrolled for a total of 124. I feel that this is information that should have been presented to the families that currently use the services at each school well before a decision was presented to the board, without families being able to voice their concerns. The before and after school programming is a community-based approach in which we partner with the school district and offer a service that is extremely beneficial to families. Families have the right to know if they are going to be subjected to a different provider, policies, and fee structures. Below is an analysis that shows the large variation that can occur regarding tuition costs. As a side note, to keep the program affordable, Discovery Days has not increased tuition since 2011 before the before and after school programming, and the district has also not raised our rent for that same amount of time. I'm asking that the board look at having both Champions and Discovery Days in Baleen Elementary next year. There's plenty of space, and this truly is the least disruptive solution. As it was presented to me as being only a one-year solution, why not allow parents to keep their current providers and make accommodations for 1 year, which then gives the board adequate time to evaluate the best case scenario. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina?
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just calling the next name, sorry.
Hello, my name is Christina McLaughlin. My address is 1208 South 92nd Street in West Dallas. I'm here on behalf of Champions Before and After School Care. And first and foremost, I would just like to thank you guys for your time and for hearing us out. I've been at test quarters with Champions for the past 3 school years now, but I have been a child care provider for the past decade. I'm joined tonight by my site staff and by my regional manager as well. And over the past 3 years that I have been with Champions, my team and I have built a really lasting connection with our children and the families that are in our care, and they treat us like we are members of their family, and we do the same exact thing for them. And those relationships are one of the many elements that make our program very strong, and our families that are in our programs know that their children's safety is without a doubt our first priority, but that we provide so much more than just that. Our program is truly an extension of the classroom. It's more than just child care. We have a focus on education, and then we also focus on learning through play. We are also Advanced Ed accredited, and we service the unique needs of all of our children by aiding in their social and emotional development through our inclusion services, which is a really amazing asset that we're given. We've also collaborated and built friendships and partnerships with the parents, teachers, and staff at our schools. We've collaborated in different events, such as working with our music and art teachers to make decorations for their music programs. We've spent time doing their walkathon and going to the 4th grade versus staff dodgeball tournaments, and really invested ourselves in the school and in this community. Almost all of our students are going to be coming here to Baleen, and we would love the opportunity to come with them, and we are willing to work on negotiating our prices to match what they've seen here with Discovery Days and make it a little bit more affordable and cost-effective with what they've already been paying. But I just would like to thank you guys for your time and let you know that we would really appreciate the opportunity to move here and bring that consistency with our kids. Thank you so much.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Hearing none?
No, we're sorry.
Oh, sorry, all right.
My name is Michelle Gonzalez. I live at South 94 West 12547 Conjo Court. I am one of the parents for Champions. I'm not a big speaker, so I'll try to make this short. I've had the pleasure of utilizing Champions over the past 3 years, and I've consistently been impressed on the quality of service that they have provided to my family. Their dedication seems very genuine. They're always very attentive to my family and their specific needs. I've had the opportunity of using other services for after-school programs within the area, and by far Champions has been the best for me and my family. My kids are very attached to Champions and their staff. And they kind of just help communicate with my changing schedule all the time. I'm not a very good speaker, sorry. And they pretty much just communicate on how the kids are doing, if there's any changes in our schedule. And overall, they really helped us kind of get into the Muskego area and learning the area, getting in touch with families. So if this is part of helping them get into Baleen, that would be greatly appreciated for my kids and my family.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to address the school board? All right. I guess I just want to clarify that this is not an action item for the board tonight. Typically, this is not even an item that the board would be taking action on. It's usually an administrative thing, but it will be mentioned in Dr. Thompson's superintendent's report, but it's not something that the board's going to be voting on or doing. It's simply there for our information, unless the board chooses to involve itself more. That's where we're at. Moving on to superintendent's report, Dr. Thompson.
Thank you, and thank you again to the Baleen administration and staff for hosting our dinner this evening. And so I turn it over to Dawn and Rachel and your team to do your annual report to the board. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. My name is Dawn Zant, the principal here at Baleen, and I want to welcome the school board, district office administrators, and all community members. Sorry that my back is to you. And before we get started on this historical night of being Baleen Middle School's last school board presentation to the board, I have with me a number of staff members, and I'll introduce them now so that they don't have to do that during the presentation. So first, Rachel Rajewski, Associate Principal, Kristen Bigley, Instructional Coach, Kim Crosby, Instructional Coach, Katie Schrader, 6th grade Literacy and Social Studies, Lori Staniszewski, 6th grade Math and Science, and Laura Sakonis, 8th grade Social Studies. So thank you to all of you for being here tonight, and I also want to thank Ms. Rochelski, our art teacher, for the lovely art that she has put on display for the board and community tonight. So thank you. So tonight, again, not the last time that this middle school will do a presentation, but the last one here at Baleen, and we, I guess, excitedly turn the building over to Baleen Elementary. We know it's going to be a great facility. We're excited about the new facility, and we're going to be talking about a lot of new things during this presentation. But first, we want to share and highlight the DPI report card and how for the past 2 years, Baleen Middle School has continued to stay in the significantly exceeds category on the state report card, moving from 84.1 to 85.7. And we're really excited about that level of work being recognized at the state level in academic progress that we're making, gap closing progress, and our work in the area of attendance.
So, as you know, it is our mission to make sure that every child is learning and growing and succeeding. And one of the data points that we look at is our forward assessment data. And so what you're seeing right there is our data from 15-16 and our data from 16-17. If you look at the very last bar, Baleen last year, we had nearly 57% of our students scoring in proficient range on the forward assessment. We're constantly working on continuous growth, and as you can see, last year in the spring, we rose from nearly 57% proficient to 64% proficient. So something that we're very proud of. It's definitely not our endpoint, and we're looking forward to continued growth at the end of this year. Another data point that we look at is our STAR assessment data and the SGP. SGP is a student growth percentile based on either the last 2 or last 3 STAR assessments. The goal is that every student scores at least a 50 SGP, which means that they performed better than 50% of the students who scored in the same range that they did nationally, so beyond our district. You can see that this year from fall to winter, we exceeded our expectation of a 50-point SGP to 59. And then if you look at that second set of data by grade level, every single grade level met the SGP. And if you look then at that last row of data, we were looking at how our students with the IEP is doing. And the goal is the same for all of our kids, that everybody meets that 50 SGP. You can see that 8th grade and 6th grade met. It actually really exceeded that 50 SGP. That 7th grade nearly met it, and 5th grade did well. We've got more room to grow. We wholeheartedly believe that with our focus on high leverage practices and continuously monitoring our data, that we're going to reach the goals that we've set for ourselves by spring.
So here you have math data from Forward. If you could look again, it's the last bar that has our school proficiency from 15-16 and 16-17. And as you can see, we also grew over the last 2 years on Forward. We continue to outperform the average in Waukesha County in math, and we'll continue to work towards increasing that growth as well. And then our STAR math data, in the interim between our Forward assessments, we kind of take a look at the STAR. And again, the median SGP is 50, and our median SGP for math is 63. So we continue to excel in growing our students while they're here at Bay Lane. In the middle box, again, is the student growth percentile per grade level, and every grade level has exceeded the 50 SGP currently. And then our students with IEPs in grades 5th and 6th, they exceeded the SGP of 50. And in 8th, they are nearly there. And in 7th, we are working towards them.
So as you can see, as we look at our data and share the data with you, we never feel like we're there. This is a continuous piece of progress that we're working within our professional learning communities that we have here at Bay Lane. We have within our Eye on the Goal document our reading and math goals, and you can see how they're written there. By spring of 2018, 70% of our students in the area of reading will reach proficiency, and in the area of math it would be 68.5. And this is targeted over the course of 3 years, so that by 2020 we can reach our mark of 100% of our students proficient in the area of reading and math. And this is really hard work that we're doing, not only gap closing for students that might be behind, but we're also monitoring and tracking how our students are doing that are advanced, making sure that they continue to be advanced and are challenged in all of their courses as well. And our presentation today, our school board and district office administrators had an opportunity to meet with some of our new families, new to the Muskego Norway School District, and we've decided to keep that theme for our entire presentation. You'll hear more from my colleagues here about what's new going on here at Bay Lane. And we're excited that we had 34 new students, not new 5th graders, but 34 new students to the district join Bay Lane this past year. We also had 4 new teachers join us at Bay Lane. We have a new FOSS and literacy curriculum that we're implementing this year. And we also have a new focus for our teams and our committees. And all while we're doing that, we're also planning for the new middle school. So there's a lot of excitement and a lot of energy revolving around all these projects. And now I'll turn it over to them to share more with you.
Hello. So as Dawn mentioned, we have a new focus on these high leverage practices.
As a staff, we're really excited and engaged in this work and growing these practices across classrooms and grade levels. We believe that this is the right work. It narrows our focus as a school. It allows for deep learning over the next 3 years. It provides a common language for our students across our system and grade levels. We recently had a professional development day where our teachers were sharing their expertise in these areas with one another, and we believe that it'll continue to build and impact student learning. And we're excited to share a video with you so you can hear from some of our students and teachers who are not here more about the high leverage practices here at Bay Lane.
Here at Bay Lane, we're working on the 6 high leverage practices, and we're trying to embed those in our professional development for our staff by offering monthly PD sessions related to those, and also cohorts related to the Danielson model.
Our teachers have focused their student learning objectives and their professional practice goals around these high leverage practices as well, and it also connects to what we know is best practice and best instruction for students. The beauty of the practices too is that one supports the other, and they're applicable in any environment. Our math teachers, our social studies teachers, tech ed, everywhere we go in the building, everywhere students are, they have opportunities to practice all of the strategies. One of the things that we see a lot is the application of close reading strategies, where we're inviting students to constantly be reading with a purpose, focusing on rereading, annotating all their rereading so that they can have a deeper comprehension of what they're reading.
It's not enough just to highlight an important passage and say, oh wait, I noticed this. You have to actually notice, question, conclude. We've been recording all of our literary devices on, which includes basically like the mood, tone, and flashback and foreshadowing, so we can have a better understanding in the books we're reading.
Once kids have closely read, it could be a math problem, it could be an article on social studies, if they're responding to what they've read with some sort of note-taking.
We use the process of interactive note-taking to help them take the ideas that they're gaining from the front of the document and put it into a summary. When students are using these documents, the overall purpose is that they're gaining these ideas in order to use them in their own writing.
I go through what I'm annotating and I just read it and I mark it up. So then I'll go back through a second read and I'll answer those questions based on what I've read. The annotations really help because now for later on in high school and college we know how to annotate. And kids in high school who are in avid are learning these and who are in 8th grade learning these, getting prepared for college.
Math, there are many times where students will take a challenging problem and they will go through the problem together as a group and really dig down deep into it and figure out what the question is asking them to do, what information they need to solve the problem, and then a process on how to solve it.
Through meaningful conversations in a Socratic seminar, students are able to build off of each other's ideas. They're able to change their opinions based on what other people are saying, and students are highly engaged in what they are reading and the discussions they're having.
Well, with Socratic seminars, it's really engaging because you get to state your opinion and listen to others, talk about problems, really solve issues. It keeps students engaged. That's the real thing. And you figure out who the leaders are and how some people come out of their shell.
The teachers have been focusing on questioning strategies and techniques with the students, and most of the teachers' goals for the second semester are to take the students and actually have the students asking the questions rather than the teacher asking them.
So we had one nonfiction text and a fiction, and then from those two texts, after comparing similarities and differences, what the students did was they created higher level questions for each other to use during a Socratic seminar.
I think knowing how to understand questions has helped us dive deeper into our projects and presentations, because we can come up with deeper questions that allow us to research more and think higher level thinking.
Well, the thing is important because it helps you focus on what you still need to learn and skills you can improve on. After we take a STAR test, a sheet that helps us keep track,
It'll ask us questions and how we can grade that by the next test we take.
For the goal setting, we look at a couple of things. In total, we look at D's and F's, we look at attendance, and then I also look at office referrals. I hope with this goal setting, I know that a teacher is really watching over them, really trying to make sure that they're successful in all of their classes, and I care about them as a whole individual.
Students have the opportunity to choose how they learn and how they show that they've learned. Students can choose between different pathways that are based on their learning styles, or they can create their own pathway. Students are provided with learning targets, so we still all have the same end goal in mind, but how they reach those targets is different based on their choice, their learning style, and their interests.
Our teachers make sure that there's a variety of things for us to do, like hands-on and technology. They make sure that like everybody's learning like in their own way.
You just either take a video, or you could go in your textbook and figure out how to do it, or you could go to a seminar.
I have choice in my learning because I can pick what I learn about and how I showcase my learning.
Mr. Chelsky helped us just a little bit by like pushing our abilities and pushing us deeper about how everything from like our perspective. We got to make up like all the ideas ourselves.
One of our new committees this year is a student agency team, and based on classroom walkthroughs, we found that that was going to provide the greatest opportunity for growth for teachers that were interested in joining this team. We have about 12 teachers that have chosen to be invested in this, and we are reading a book on personalized learning with Habits of Mind, and also created based on a rubric of 3 areas we were interested in pursuing, and creating a goal and an action plan. And our end goal is to, by the end of the year, each of us meet with a couple teachers to kind of share some ideas to try and build that knowledge and interest and excitement with other peers in our building.
The biggest new for us as literacy middle school teachers has been piloting a brand new literacy curriculum this year. It's grades 5 through 8. 5th grade is piloting a program called ReadyGen, while grades 6 through 8 are piloting a program called My Perspectives. I have my list of features so I don't forget any of the good stuff. Both programs gave a beginning of the year test, which was great for us as teachers so we could meet the kids where they were, because we know they're not all coming to us at the exact same place. Both programs have grade level text, so for some kids it's pretty high level. They both offer thematic units, which cover a huge genre of text, so kids are reading fiction, nonfiction, they're reading blog posts and poetry and interviews, and way more genres than I think they've read in the past, and all of those different genres allow them to think not just within the text, but also beyond the text, which is a huge skill for readers. All of the work we're doing as literacy teachers is covering all of the components of literacy, which is reading, writing, grammar, vocabulary, all of these things that work together to make someone a strong literacy student. The Pearson programs we are using also give us great resources to use. We have student workbooks that they're able to annotate the text right in. We have multimedia resources and videos and all of these things to help every learner get the support that they need. Like we talked about with high leverage practices, we really feel like all of the teaching we're doing this year is hitting all of those high leverage practices over and over, which is awesome. And the last thing that's great about these programs is we are constantly assessing our students. There's ongoing assessment, which is not just summative assessments, but also formative assessments. So these programs are really helping us guide our learning in the right direction to make sure we're meeting the needs of all of our students.
So we have a new book club, and we have our PBIS team, which is Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. And part of that big team, we have a data team that digs down into the behavior data. And we noticed that, not surprisingly, the data showed that our male students had significantly more referrals than our female students. So our PBS team put out there to read a book that we heard was really great and able to give us some proactive next steps, and 40 teachers signed up. So there's been a book club going with ongoing learning about all kinds of fascinating things about our male students and our female students and how we can better meet their needs. And then the team is going to come together and provide some key findings for staff at a spring professional development day. Excited about that. And then we have a new character development initiative this year that, again, our PBS team focuses on teaching behaviors and systems of support. And we were trying to figure out how we could help students become community ready and connect them to their character. Jeremy Bergam and Heath Leiteritz took the lead on connecting with people from the community and helping make it explicit for students what it means to be respectful, to have integrity. And so once a month in our homerooms, we show a video of somebody out in the community. We've had the mayor, the police chief, some former students, which you'll hear from, and share with students what respect looks like, what some of the character traits look like beyond the walls of our school, and we know that our students' character impacts the community. So we're going to share just about a minute of this one. You know Tommy Anderson?
A little bit.
What's up, Bobcats? I'm Tommy Anderson, Baylane class of 2012, and I'm currently a sophomore at the University of St. Thomas, where I play basketball for the Tommies, and I'm majoring in actuarial science. Betting you bright young minds know what an actuary is, I think that would be very deserving of some extra credit, but that would have to teach it. Anyway, I want to talk about a word that is very important in my life, and something that's going to be very important in your life as well, and that is respect. Respect all comes down to one simple idea, and that's the golden rule. Treat others how you want to be treated. That means you treat them with kindness, you accept them for who they are, and you recognize the gifts and the talents that they bring to this world. Respect is a really great way to build strong, positive relationships with others. When you show respect, you often receive that respect back. This is so important in building relationships. We're talking about building better relationships with friends, siblings, parents, teachers, coaches, anyone in the community. It'll make your life a lot better. I promise you that if you show respect and you build great relationships.
So there's just a teaser for you, but you can check out the rest of them on our website under Parent and Student Resources. And then in our homerooms after the videos, there's a discussion that our homeroom teachers facilitate with students. That's pretty powerful.
So I'm just here to talk a little bit about something that's new in 7th and 8th grade. This year, science, social studies, and Encore teachers had the opportunity to build some goals around student engagement. And Jenny Besh, my 7th grade social studies teacher, and I decided that we wanted to take the opportunity to build some relationships between 7th and 8th grade. Oftentimes, we focus a lot on building community and culture within a grade level, but it's much harder to do that across grade levels. So we're started a little project this year, and we call it Cronies. Every 8th grader in my class has a 7th grade crony, or 2 of them, and once a month or twice a month we meet with our cronies. We started off the year with how you might start off any sort of new community idea, some community building, drawing some common ground, and figuring out how they could build a relationship together. We started also by giving them a quick survey, like, do I know an 8th grader in this class? Do I have a positive relationship with an 8th grader in this class? Do I have an 8th grader I could go to for advice? And we kind of did the same questions vice versa. So we've done times where we're just playing games and getting to know each other. We've done study sessions. They've done little projects together. We've done competitions with one another. And we just kind of did our middle of the year, got some feedback from kids. And at the beginning of the year, all of those questions, we had less than 50% of the kids saying yes to those questions. Now we're over 80% of the kids saying yes to those questions. So we feel like it's been a really neat opportunity to engage students in a little different way. And hopefully that helps our community as a whole. We're also taking the opportunity to look into something that is called the Courage Retreat. It's something put on by a company called Youth Frontiers, and they do programs for students of all ages. Their middle school one is really about empowering middle school students to find their voice and find themselves and be confident in who they are. So Jenny, Bash, and I are going to, in a couple weeks, take a look at another middle school that's doing the Courage Retreat to see what it's like, and possibly be able to bring that opportunity to our kids as another means of engagement.
All right, and finally, a big project that we're working on is transitioning to the new middle school. We have a lot of new creative space that we'll be utilizing in the next year. Some common shared space in a resource area, in an assembly area outside of the library. So a lot of opportunity for our PBIS team to come together and create some guidelines where our departments and grade levels will then, throughout the rest of this semester, be looking at that information so they can get their head around how they will teach and how they will teach students to interact in a space that looks different than what we have access to right now. So we're working on that. Another piece is communication, working with parents, and ultimately with the students that will be transitioning to the new middle school. Ms. Rajewski and I have done 3 so far opportunities of having parents come with us to the new middle school, and we give them a tour and we're explaining to them what the new space looks like and how we're going to help students and staff to learn and present a new vision of what learning will look like at the middle school. And we have 3 more of those set up, and that's how we're interacting with parents. And of course, there will be a lot of things to come over the summer and as registration periods come for all parents to have access to the building. But we wanted to give some parents a chance to give us feedback and talk about the new facility. And in addition, our staff is going to be taking a field trip the first week in February after school, and they're going to actually be experiencing what their new space looks like so they can come back and have concrete information about how we want to utilize this space. And let's see, students, at the end of the year, we're working with Lake Dunoon, both student councils, and we're going to make sure that every student that's coming to middle school, so the current 4th graders, all the way up through 7th grade, are going to get a t-shirt of where they're going to call home next year for middle school, because we want to be very aware that we know some families are making a transition, but we want them all to feel like they're connected to a new place next year. And so with that, that's all we have. I can ask the staff members to stand if any of you have questions for any of us.
I'm going, Dawn. Well, one, thank you. I love how you engage the students, and thank you to you and your staff from the scores, the artifacts that you present, demonstrating all the accomplishments. Thank you all. I do have one, and I don't know if you can answer this here, or if I could just get your take on this, but so now that the middle school scheduling has been out and it's open, and the changes that we've had with the 7th and 8th grade. And can you talk about the impact on the music areas and in relation to the STEM programs and
sure.
The other opportunities parents will have?
Sure. So I believe the question that you're asking is the option that our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders will have to make of choosing a distinction between band and choir. And with that decision, first I want to share with you the data that we collected over the past 5 years. On an average, each grade level, there's between either 4, 5, or 6 students that this impacts each year. So for example, 4 students in 6th grade, or 6 students in 7th grade, or 5 students in 8th grade. I don't have the numbers memorized, but roughly that's the number of students that actually took both band and choir in the past. With that information, knowing it was a relatively small number and the plethora of opportunities that we wanted to provide for students, and the areas that we were enhancing for middle level programming is making sure that students had opportunities in financial literacy, STEM opportunities, let's see, business ed and some of the new enhanced courses, career exposure, and health also. And so all of those, we're trying to find a way that we can get more regular, consistent courses for all of our students, meaning that there are some DPI requirements which are mandated and all students must take. But then how do we ensure that by the time a student graduates from 8th grade, they had some minimal things that we felt were very important at the middle level. So for example, in the area of STEM, making sure that we have a BIT app class where they're learning about apps and software and coding, etc. Designing and engineering, an architectural course in our family and consumer ed course. So we have a number of new courses that were proposed, making sure that we had greater exposure for all students and making sure that students didn't exhaust one department and then went to high school not being exposed in other areas.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure. Any other questions for us?
I don't have a question, just more an observation. So I caught you as we were leaving the situation with the parents, and first of all, I thought that was a wonderful idea. So first of all the new programming and things that you're all doing as a staff, thank you very much for staying fresh and new and exciting. I'm sure the students love it and the staff loves it. And just the opportunity to meet incoming parents, I've never had that experience before. So it really is very instructional to hear what brings parents to this district, what they have found when they landed here, and just the consistent comment, at least at my table, and your staff should know this, was that the parents were so appreciative of the enthusiasm of the teachers. And that the consistent comment was, it's so refreshing to be amongst staff that truly want to be here, and you can see it with the students coming home each day, excited about what they've learned, or a new approach to their learning. So thank you for that opportunity, and again, commendations to your staff who clearly are making a positive difference.
Any other questions?
Comment and a question for Rachel. You talked about book club again, which, to be honest with you, I haven't heard that in a long time. I think we used to do a lot of book clubs and they kind of went away. I think it's a great way to come together, collaborate, but also just learn about each other. So I'm glad you're doing that again. My question is, 40 out of how many teachers?
I mean, we have 83 staff.
53 certified.
Right, but we open it up to anybody.
Everybody?
We have some people involved who are not classroom teachers.
Okay,
so
well, good start. And then the second one is Why Gender Matters, is that geared towards teachers or not?
I believe it's geared towards parents, teachers, but also.
So it's not specifically a,
It's not a book written for teachers, but
okay.
what I would say is in there is informing a lot of, our interactions with students.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Again, thank you, all of you. It was a privilege to bring the new families in. I can tell you, you only saw about a third of them, and I think they would have all come if they had the opportunity. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Very nice, thank you again. The next item in my report is pulling the board on any interested people who would like to volunteer for a diploma distribution at our graduation ceremony this year. And again, remember, we moved it to Sunday just for this year due to issues with some co-curricular state events and things. So it's June 3rd. So if you can't commit right now, that's okay. If you want to let either myself or Darn know, we can pass it along to the high school.
So one thing to keep in mind, obviously I'll be there to speak at it.
Yes.
Chris, do you have a graduate?
Oh, yes, I'll be there.
Well, sorry. I don't think anyone else has a graduate.
Sorry.
You?
So I would
thought
ask
okay,
the board
so
for
you
an
got-
opportunity to come back,
All right.
since I will have finished my term, to come back and hand my daughter.
Depends on how many cookies you bring the next
So
several meetings.
my last request then, so that we're at 3, is unless somebody has a absolute burning desire, can we keep the last spot open until after elections? Because there may be, well, I'm thinking there's at least one or so of people running that will be filling those spots that may have a graduate. So I'm guessing that's something we want to participate in.
Thank you. The next item is before and after school programming for our new design. Obviously, with the closing of Muskego Elementary and Test Corners and merging into 3 elementaries, we currently have 3 before and after school providers. We're looking at maintaining those 3 contracts, just making some adjustments that will just support the transition, support the families that are being served in those programs. And so Julie can just provide a little summary of the information that we have and how we're moving forward short term, and then how we're moving, looking to, look at this deep, in a more deep way next year in our Plan to Study Act phase.
Okay, thank you. So we, as Dr. Thompson had mentioned, we do have 3 partners that we work with for our before and after care program. And because of the transition, and as you've heard from a couple people who spoke in the audience, we were looking to find a short-term solution to have 1 provider in each of our elementary buildings that will allow for what we've looked at from a numbers perspective as the most keeping families with the same provider as much as possible. There will be some adjustments for families, specifically the ones at Country Meadows and Muskego Elementary that are shifting between buildings. But what we felt was that having champions here at Baylane Elementary keeps all of the Test Corners families with their provider. It also keeps 64 families at Mill Valley with their provider through Discovery Days. Lots for Tots is pretty simple. They've been in Lakeview. There's not a lot of transition down in that area, so we would recommend keeping them at the Lakeview location as well. Again, this is a short-term solution for 1 year. Next year, we will be participating in our plan phase of the Plan Do Study Act process, in which we'll be able to really look at our before and after care as well as our 4K providers and processes and contracts, and look at how we are serving our kiddos kind of all around from those perspectives. We'll be able to gather more data, more parent input, just more information overall, as opposed to a quick solution as we transition and there's already enough change for families. So we're looking at a short-term solution again next year, a very in-depth analysis of what we'd like to do, and that could be, it could be 1 provider across our system, it could be maintaining 3 different providers, it could be sharing providers. It's really up to the work that we do next year. So again, our recommendation would be to move forward with champions here at Baylane, Discovery Days at Mill Valley, and Lots for Tots at Lakeview.
And all of our providers have been very well respected by not only those who are supporting them from a district perspective, but also have been very positive from a parent perspective. So, we feel very confident. These contracts are 1 year, so we'll just, adjust the contracts for next year and move forward. Any comments from the board?
Is this something that comes back to the board for action then, or is this just something that you guys proceed like any other of our maintenance contracts or anything like
Correct,
that?
correct. It wouldn't be until next year that we would bring forward something with a recommendation for action.
For policy change?
Correct.
So just one question. So if we did not have champions at Baylane, they wouldn't be in our district at all?
Well, if we were to switch and have Discovery Days at Baylane Elementary and then move champions to Mill Valley, they would be able to maintain the before and after care program there. However, they would have no returning families that they're currently working with. It would be all new families that are currently with Discovery Days.
As well as the majority of the families here would be.
Right, right.
So is it my understanding that Discovery Days would like both Mill Valley and Baylane?
Correct.
So if we didn't have champions here and we allowed Discovery Days to have both facilities, champions would not be in our district anymore?
Correct.
Okay.
But to be clear, actually, as the director or the owner of Discovery Days has been in contact with me as well. What she's asking for this year would be to allow both, have two
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
two here.
Yeah, I understand.
And for logistical reasons, it just doesn't work out.
I understand. Okay.
Thank you. And so we look forward to diving deeper into that process next year. And the last item is contributions to the profession, and you see the list there of ways that we're giving back to the profession of education in ways that are beyond just teaching and learning, facilities, operations, many ways. So, and that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. My report's short. WASPA convention is this week. Dean, are you planning on attending?
Yes, I am.
Thank you very much, because I was your backup. But I encourage everyone, if you have time, to stop down there. There's lots of good breakout sessions and things to absorb and make us better board members and learn new things with. That's going on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Wednesday, Dr. Thompson and I will be presenting at 1:30. If you want to be part of the audience or be a heckler, that's fine. We'll be presenting on dates. And I guess since we didn't have a student rep, I will pass along that this last week, the girls' dance and palms took first in all the divisions at state. First in palms, first in jazz, and first in hip hop. So it's kind of amazing that they won first in all three. So.
They'll be here in February to be recognized by the board.
Oh, yeah. And then the thing that's actually agendized on my report is Dr. Thompson sent us all an email on Friday. Board self-evaluations, it's that time of year. If you could please log on to that and have it filled out by the 15th. Answers will be compiled, and we'll have a meeting afterwards to discuss on what we all think of each other, or as a collective group. So, thank you. Any other board member reports?
I'll just remind everybody that every year the WSB puts out an app for the convention, so if you want to look up anything specific as far as what's going on during a specific time, it's all on there. You can set it on your own agenda, and it's a very handy thing to have. So, that's our little presentation you'll be doing.
Awesome. Any other board member reports? All right, moving on to acting clerk's report. Mr. Buckmaster.
All right, 5 candidates have declared their candidacy for 3 seats in the spring 2018 school board election. A drawing for named position on the ballot was conducted on Friday, January 5th, 2018. Acting clerk, myself, supervised the draw, which was witnessed by 4 ESC staff members. Tracy Blair was represented by her daughter, Rachel Blair. Mrs. Blair was present through Rachel's FaceTime connection. The remaining candidates did not attend. The ballot order is as follows: Kurt Herenda, Tracy Blair, Eric Schrader, Terry Boyer, Carla Klein. Ends the acting clerk's report.
All right, thank you very much. There are no committee reports. Moving on to item 8, resolution action items, 8A 2018-19 budget calendar.
Motion to approve the 2018-2019 budget calendar as presented.
So moved.
Second. Discussion.
No changes. There are no changes.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to item 9B, 2018-19 school board meeting calendar.
No.
Nope, did I miss that?
Open enrollment.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jumped up to 9 somehow.
I can take it here. Motion to approve the 2018-2019 open enrollment seats as follows.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Summarize?
You bet. So January brings that time of year again where we have opportunity to approve open enrollment seats. So documents that we have shared with you. We have the DPI open enrollment brochure that's there for reference for you, but also for parents statewide. We have open enrollment by grade level, open enrollment special education, memo to the board, which articulates a little bit more detail about monies, revenue, and really seeking approval for X number of seats. And then something new that was added this year was just a graph of our 3-year trend, history of our open enrollment here in Muskego Norway schools. That's just something that I know the board's asked every single year, and I haven't been able to provide an answer, so thought this year I'd include it in case you wanted to know what that looks like. So with that said, I'd like to really direct your attention toward the open enrollment memo that was put together, and just clarify a few points of interest. One, we currently have 141 students that are attending through the open enrollment process here in Muskego, Norway. And in June of 2018, there will be 10 open enrollment students who will be exiting our system. And when you put a dollar value to that, that's the equivalent of $70,550, which is calculated 10 times the reimbursement rate that we currently get from the state of Wisconsin or through the open enrollment program. So when we took a look at our projected enrollment for 2018-19, which was a little bit trickier than in years past because of our new attendance boundaries, we had to take a close look at all the data points that we've had and merging our schools together. We have a recommendation of 6 students who, as you can tell, will be in first grade at the elementary school. So when you add a dollar benefit for that, that turns out to be $42,330 in open enrollment dollars. Again, the reimbursement rate is at $7,055 per open enrollment student. We're also making a recommendation of 11 open enrollment seats for 4K. When we took a look at our past history and our projection for enrollment in 4K next year, we feel confident that we can accommodate 11 open enrollment seats. If you recall, those get partially funded at 60% each, so $4,233 per student for a total of $46,563. So when you take a look at open enrollment 4K through 12th grade for next year, we have the potential of adding $88,893 in additional revenue. Again, just to go over it one more time, 4K, we're recommending 11 seats, and then first grade, 6 seats. So what we're looking for the board to do is to approve those seats.
I have a question on grade 4, Bay Lane. At what point do you add another section? Or it can't be? Because you're at 21 over capacity and then projected. How do you solve that situation?
Which grade are you looking at?
4th grade, Bay Lane Elementary, capacity 132, projected enrollment 153.
Yeah, so we'll take a close look at inter-district transfers that are going to be perhaps happening at each one of our respective schools that may help resolve some of the numbers at 4th grade at Bay Lane or any of the other particular schools, or open enrollment seats, open enrollment students that currently may be attending that particular school may have to shift, or we may have to move those particular students.
So they're all over capacity, so much.
Yeah, and capacity is our, is the guideline that we use, so 22 students per class, but we do go over that. A typical, so for example, at 4th grade with 153 students with 6, we're at about 25 students per grade, or per class. So that's within a normal range of kind of overage. But when we look at open enrollment seats, we don't want to add seats to any class that would be over 22 because we just don't know and we want to serve intra-district transfers. We want to obviously give some room for any move-ins and things like that. So that's why it's.
I guess my question is at what point would you need to add another section?
Typically, we look at, it varies, it depends, but it could be right around 27 students per class. So when you have 6 sections, we're still looking at, we could have 12 more kids coming into Failing Elementary and still be comfortable. We also look at what kind of instructional supports we could provide. So there have been classes that are 27 with instructional aids that are supporting reading and math. So, but that's about what we do. It's right around 27, 28. We have those conversations about whether or not we need to add.
And at what point do you typically make that determination?
As soon as we possibly can, because certainly when we, the sooner we can hire, if we have to hire, or shift. So that's an ongoing thing that we actually start staffing, like hard staffing, if you will, in February. And then we go all the way through, and there have been times that we're hiring in July, and I'd certainly prefer to make those decisions earlier than that.
What is the deadline for inter-district transfers?
April.
And if you were to add another teacher, do you have room in the classroom? You have a classroom space for it?
Any other questions on this? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to item 8C, gifts, grants, and bequests.
Motion to accept with thanks. Gifts noted. Lake Point Church, a variety of breakfast and snack bars valued at $552. Jim and Ann Kuzmic, clothing items to be distributed to students throughout Lakeview Elementary Health Room, or through, as needed. Value $298.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Moving on to discussion items, 9A, 2018-19 budget. Placeholder, is there anything new on that?
Nothing new.
Anyone have any specific questions regarding the budget? Moving on to item 9B, 2018-19 school board meeting calendar again.
So this calendar is kind of models after what we've experienced this year and the last couple of years, between 1 and 2 meetings per month, depending on sort of where we're at in the year. So July is typically 1, August we typically have 2. September and October, between those 2 months, we have 3. So kind of goes along that same kind of approach. November, December, we have 3. And then starting in February and March, we have 2 per month, because those are hiring and staffing and non-renewal. All those types of things are occurring during those months. And so we need to make sure we have time with the board to do that. And then a couple in May and 1 in June. As you can see, the rotating board meetings schedules, if the board approves this on February 5th, actually, it'll come back in February. We only have 6 rotating board meetings, so we'll be back to the ESC in the middle of February. So what we typically do with our mid-year eye on the goal meeting with the board mid-year, we've had it at a building, and it's been after hours, so we'll be able to be back at the ESC in February and have that mid-year with all of our principals and directors prior to a board meeting. So, and again, to just outline that the annual meeting is right now scheduled for October 29th.
Is there any way we can move that April 8th one up a week? That'll be my last meeting, and I won't be here.
So moving it up to the beginning of April?
Yeah. That'll be the April 1st. Would that be?
Appropriate day.
Yeah.
Go present.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Okay. That is spring break. No,
No.
I'm looking back,
Yeah.
I'm looking back,
Yes,
I'm
spring
sorry,
break's
I'm
the
on
19th to the 28th.
Yes, you're right, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that'd be good, because then we wouldn't have nice long one.
You don't have the lame duck in there either, too.
The what?
Since April 2nd is the election.
Yeah, so, I mean, you're still, but then will be your last one.
This will be our last meeting then.
Oh, yeah, based on that one, that's right,
Well, then
May
that-
6th.
And that would be the only meeting in April then?
Yeah.
So
and
the
then come on.
April, or the week before, just meeting, right?
It's the NCAA championships.
All right.
Probably going for that.
I'll just meet the first, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Do we have to?
We gotta have at least one a month.
Oh, we do? Okay.
Doesn't say it has to be long, we just have to meet once a month.
Any other comments or?
Just check on it.
And again, you can look at this over the next few weeks too.
All right.
Good, okay. Bring this back to the report. Right.
All right. Item 9C, teacher contract language.
So bringing this forward, the 2018-19 teacher contract with a few proposed changes to it. And as stated in board docs, the change really reflects two things. The first being that teachers, if breaching their contract between the dates of June 16th and June 30th, would now be paying liquidated damages to the tune of $1,500. That change is being proposed because when you take a look at what's happening regionally and surrounding districts, that is a common practice. Not to have a 2-week window in which teachers would have an opportunity to so-called breach their contract. And when we take a look at teachers that have recently left the system in the last several years, that 2-week window has been a time where teachers have moved on. The second proposed change would be changing the amount in liquidated damages from July 1st to between July 1st and July 31st. So we increased that by $500, and now it reflects the amount of $2,000. Again, when comparing these amounts with area school districts, it falls in line with other district contracts as we collected that data through HR group that I belong to.
Is it on the high end, low end, or middle?
It is right in the median. Yep.
I don't care if we go high in this one as anyone else. It's, that last one specifically, people breaking their contract a month before school starts is kind of a, and quite honestly, the teachers almost never pay it anyway. No, it's the district that's stealing them, usually pay it for them.
Some do, some don't,
Yeah,
yeah.
depends what, I guess it depends what you're teaching.
Right.
Does it ever matter in the language of the contract if a July 31st or a July 1st falls on a Sunday?
No.
No.
I have no issue moving it to 2,500, but I'm not sure what anyone else thinks, or if you, what the administration thinks of that.
For which period of time?
The second one. The ones that are bailing at the last second. July 1st, 31st.
So I'm proposing 2,000, and you would suggest shifting that to $2,500?
Then there is a next level.
August.
There's a 2,500 August 1st through September 3rd and a 3,000 on or after. Would you like all of those increased
all
by
$500.
500 additional? Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Provided this doesn't cost us $500 in attorney fees to make this change.
No, we can make
We can do
this
this,
change.
okay.
So I can make those changes and bring it back?
Yeah, does anyone else have any objections to that?
No.
Can we approve it with those changes, or we're not,
We're
we're
not
in just
approving
discussion?
unless you need it removed.
No, we don't.
Okay.
Okay.
Good with that.
Thank you.
Item 9D, lawn equipment.
Wanted to talk through our current grounds program. So we've been outsourcing our mowing for probably the last 10 years or maybe more. And with the consolidation of schools next year, going down a site and reducing Mill Valley's grass footprint quite a bit, we feel like with the addition of one employee, we could do the work in-house. And essentially the cost of that employee is the same as the cost of the contract. So where we win is we would essentially have that employee the entire year to be able to perform other tasks and chip away at other things that we could use support with. So really this agenda item is to talk about purchasing the equipment. So there would be a mower and a trailer involved. And essentially we would keep the mower inside of the trailer all year round, and we would that employee would just transport it site to site during the mowing season, so we wouldn't have to like mobilize every day. Additional projects that person would be doing throughout the year. We've done a lot more painting ourselves. We haven't contracted anything since 2016. We've been doing some carpentry. We would like to have this added skill set of someone with small engine repair so that we can be able to make a lot of the repairs to the equipment in-house. Any special projects that come up, so we've been tinkering with the thoughts of some ideas have been baseball dugouts at the baseball stadium. Essentially, some of those baseball dugouts were priced out at about $30,000 each, but we believe with the team we could do some of that work in-house. One thing that's going to need attention over the next 5 years, and maybe Tony could help speak to this, is the life cycle of all of our smart boards. We're moving to a different technology, so on a schedule we would like to start replacing out those smart boards. And rather than outsourcing the installation of those smart boards, doing it in-house at a savings of all of the smart boards being replaced at about $150,000. So Tony and I and a team are going to go up to Hudson and see how they're performing this in-house in the same fashion, so that we could potentially replicate the processes that they've had, much more larger projects where they're doing it in-house and not having to pay someone else to do that. And then as we roll into next year, we are expiring our plowing contract as well next year. So we're thinking about possibly doing more plowing in-house and just keeping a contract with some sites, but seeing what we can take back. And currently we've been able to work out, so if our team can do the ESC, we'll call the contractor and say, you don't have to do it today, we'll take it. If we can salt ourselves right now, we do it, and to salt the entire district is $2,000. So we just bought a salter for the truck, and after 3 saltings of the district, it was paid for. So there are areas that we can perform just as adequately as a contractor can and end up saving money in the long term. And then I just noted, we don't have to get into all of it, but some of the things that we've done over the last few years, eliminating different contracts and performing it in-house, and I would make the argument that we're doing it at a much higher level than the contractors that had been performing it in the past. So all of that has just added to the capital fund and also enabled us to fund emergency repairs as they've come up. You know, we've never had to come forward and say we can't pay for this emergency repair. We've just been able to take care of it if it hasn't been covered by insurance. In addition, we have a contingency built into our operations fund, which I'd use some of that contingency to purchase the mower and the trailer for next season. So just throwing it out there.
So we picked up quite a few things in-house that we, do you have kind of a spreadsheet or anything of the savings that we've seen over the years? I'd be interested in seeing that if it's something you already have in place.
Yeah, if you scroll down to 2013 to present contracts, essentially it's roughly $150,000 a year. So the field complex care was about $70,000. That was to do all the field preps and aerating and rolling and all that stuff. We also eliminated the field cutting, so that was a separate contract. HVAC controls, so all of the controls that are within the district, we eliminated that contract, and we did purchase new controls for the entire district through the capital fund a few years back, which really helped. All of the contracted heating for kindergarten through 8th grade, we now do that in-house. Herbicide, so we bought a pesticide or an herbicide riding kind of a little buggy, and we're able to do the whole district with that. So really all of those are ongoing, and then we have some one-time things that we've been able to do with labor that we wouldn't have had before, so.
So these are actual savings, not what it's costing us?
No, that's
Okay,
all, yeah, it's
okay.
all savings, yeah.
So one of my concerns with this is you typically hire two guys that, typically everyone likes. And one of the hardest parts are when all of a sudden we have changes in things and we need to downsize. I guess I want you to look at me right now and say, yeah, if we hire somebody, I also have, you're gonna be able to let them go when we need to. I understand we don't wanna do that, but that's usually one of the best reasons for outsourcing things. It makes you more flexible, and you can move to changing times much quicker. That's typically the reason why a lot of places will go. Sometimes it's demonstrated that it's cheaper, and you're showing the other one here. So I don't have a problem bringing it in-house. I just want a commitment of as if things change and how they change and how we do things happens, that we're in the teaching business, not the lawn business, and your staff will get cut before teachers.
I guess if I were to push back on that a little bit, it would be if there was cuts that you would work together, we'd work together to figure out where the most appropriate place to
Right.
take the cut. It wouldn't be like this guy goes, so.
Right.
I think there might be more low-hanging or highly valued fruit, and right now I feel that the more skilled labor are more engaged, they're more productive, and they're putting forward more savings for the district. So there would be other places that I'd appreciate exploring first. I appreciate it.
Any other comments or thoughts on this?
Okay, we'll bring this back for approval then on February 5th for your consideration.
All right, moving on, item 9.
With that, just bring back the employee costs with benefits.
Total cost.
Total cost. We also have to keep in mind that as we purchase equipment, we're gonna have to replace that equipment. Something to think about. That's another reason why we outsource things. I understand, I totally agree. You get a higher level of committed employee and product from that employee, no doubt about it. I understand that. But there's other things that we have to talk about too.
Sure. Anything else? All right, moving on to 9E, policy 8510, wellness, first reading.
So there is a link to the draft wellness policy that was put together by a group, a student nutrition and wellness committee team that's consistent of staff members as well as parents. This is a required policy. The guidelines for the policy were really given to us by the U.S. Department of Nutrition, and so we have to follow certain guidelines with respect to their regulations. Within that, though, we do have a lot of flexibility, and so the draft being brought forward to you is a result of us working through the USDA guidelines and determining what's most appropriate for our system. Also, I have highlighted, and I'm sorry, it's kind of everything's green because the whole policy is new, but I have highlighted some items that I've brought forward to our leadership team and also bringing forward to you today that could result in some changes to the way that we procedurally do things here. And so just to give a couple examples, if you scroll down to the section under policy, leadership, and reporting requirements, it just talks a little bit about guidelines pertaining to things, including classroom parties, birthday snacks, and other food items within our system. So we have practices within our schools that kids can bring in birthday snacks and things like that, but we as a committee are going to start looking at developing guidelines where we're encouraging maybe some changes in some of those behaviors and some of those practices. This is going to be a process in which it'll change over time, nothing that we want to necessarily enforce immediately, but just to start changing some of the behaviors, especially with a lot of the food allergies that are out there. So the committee, after this policy is approved, if the board approves it, would move forward in developing administrative guidelines and some like marketing materials for families, for schools, and how to encourage healthy snacks in different areas outside of the food service program. There's also other things in here that I've highlighted with regard to recess and how it shall not be withheld as punishment. So a lot of times if kids are misbehaving, one of the repercussions of that is to not have recess, and sometimes those are the kids that need to get out and get their energy out the most. And so working with teachers and the leadership team to determine, how we can find other alternatives if there needs to be disciplinary measures taken. And finally, I just wanted to touch on, there is one item in here talking about how the schools may provide at least 20 minutes daily for students to eat. And again, this is a focus that I know at the final year-end report from our food service program that the board had mentioned too, about giving students enough time to actually sit down and eat and not be pushed out. And so we're working in conjunction with the calendar committee. Jeff has taken the policy to his calendar group to look at as they think about calendaring and they think about start times for the schools and things like that, if there are any adjustments made that we consider an opportunity to extend lunch to a certain extent so that kids have a little bit more time to eat. Other than that, it's just mostly the standard language that's required. And again, this committee itself has to be established, and we have to revisit this policy as well as our procedures across our system and bring them back to the board once every three years, I believe.
Is it federal guidelines or state?
It's federal. Mm-hmm.
So, the birthday snack thing?
Yes.
I don't care if we have a list, but I have no interest in enforcing that. You can say, this would be nice if you brought it, but I'm of the belief that, there's a few places government should stay out of, and let parents decide what their kids are going to eat, and they can make right and wrong decisions. And I think that's part of it. Me, being me, I guess. There's another item in here that you highlighted about any food items sold on campus as fundraisers are encouraged to meet the current USDA nutrition guidelines.
Again, encouraged.
Yeah, well, and
encouraged.
I guess that's the key. I guess the key in that is, what does encouraged mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we encourage you, or you can't sell here.
Right,
or
right.
We're not going to provide you with a table. You're not going to make any money selling asparagus.
Correct. We understand that. Yes. I think
Although
that
I loved it tonight.
It was really good tonight.
But I did notice that little Luke at my table did not take it.
Yeah, we wanted to specifically put in words like encouraged, and we can provide definitions as well, encouraged, may, so that there's flexibility within that, because we don't want to heavy-handedly say this is what has to be, but it's also encouraging behaviors within the classroom and outside of the classroom as well. So, but your point is understood and well taken. And we have parents on really varying ends of the spectrum on this, so it is a good collaboration to make sure we meet in the middle.
One of those parents became first lady once and changed all our lunches for everyone.
And again, this is, we're going to encourage this throughout K-12, obviously, but the enforceability of some of the main regulations is really K-8, simply because of us being in the lunch program, K-8. For the most part, our high school, because we're exempt from that program, we're going to apply and encourage, but it's not necessarily things that have to be a certain way.
Okay.
Does this apply to co-curriculars at all?
Well, that's one of the things in here was fundraisers, yeah.
So we want to be careful that, we're not going to eliminate nachos, are we?
No.
You'd miss us.
Gosh. Those are healthy.
I get my nachos, I get my popcorn, okay, get pops in there, okay.
It's going to be carrot chips.
Yeah, and I think we want to be aware that as we're getting into some of the out of school activities that we're understanding. A lot of the fundraising activities that they're talking about are like during lunch, we're selling candy and bake sales, and like during the school day. I think that there are some, we can make sure that we're putting in maybe after school events are exempt from.
So, like if the cheerleaders are selling cookies at lunch, they can't, it'll be oatmeal or what?
Well, they could, but if it's K-8, they're only allowed per regulations one a year, where it's not regulated, and that's per a federal guideline.
Do they audit this?
Yes, we are audited every 5 years.
You audit if a cheerleader sells a chocolate
I don't
chip
personally.
cookie?
The government comes in and audits us.
Okay,
every
I was going to
5
say,
years.
we don't track if it,
Do we track
right?
No, but we do have a fundraising policy that has to be monitored, but our principals and our food service director do have to monitor that,
So
what's happening
when
during
they
the
come
school
in and
day.
audit us, do they audit us on the fact that we have a policy? Or do they show up and walk through the building and see
They-
that FBLA is selling donuts?
They will do walkthroughs on their days here. They will also ask us for a list of fundraisers that have been approved from our system.
Do we know when they come?
Yes.
Then don't
It is
sell
announced.
during that day.
Why don't we make that our policy?
Yeah.
Sell when they're coming.
Only sell asparagus and carrot chips on the.
Quite honestly,
We did, and honestly, to be honest with you, like our last audit, we passed with flying colors.
They don't give us enough money to be telling us what
Right.
I know.
they're doing.
It's like, whatever.
But we are a system that is encouraging healthy nutrition, wellness, awareness of physical activity, and things of that sort. And so this is just one piece of guidance that can help us along that.
Have you
path.
turned down a request?
They don't come through me.
Who do they go through?
I think the principals.
Have the principals turn it?
I don't know. I don't know. But there are guidelines that there's a form that has to be filled out, and the guidelines are associated with it.
So maybe it's already handled in the way we want it to.
Those principals that may be watching or in attendance should
Yeah,
realize
so
that the
maybe
board
that's
doesn't
good.
really
It's
care
been
to have
handled the
this
way we
forum.
want to. Wink, wink. Okay, so it's good.
We may lose those forums.
Julie, I'm glad you're addressing that, how much time they get, because it's a consistent thing we hear year over year, that the kids do not have enough time. So wherever you can add minutes to that.
And I
doesn't matter
do.
what they're
And the
eating.
efficiency through the lines.
Yep, and
right?
we do.
That's huge, is the efficiency through the line.
We do food studies. I meet with our director, and we go to the site. At least I go with her once a year to every site, and she also monitors time. I can tell you where we have our greatest issues are the places where we have the cafeteria and the gym. It's the same thing. And so we don't have the space for that flexibility. And so with the transition of schools, when we get to Mill Valley and have that separation, and here as well, we were just here, and really, it's very efficient here. The process is that, kids are not sitting for 20 minutes and eating because they are scarfing their food and going because they just want to get out. So it just depends on the facility, but I do think our biggest concern will eventually just be Lakeview because they will be the only site with the shared gym.
And we got to figure that out.
Yep, and that's something we are working on, so.
Got goals.
Thank you.
We had
Thank you,
opportunities
Julie.
to figure that out
Such a popular topic.
in the past.
I know, I'm sorry. Darn it. Thank you for your input.
Anything else on this? Any other inputs we'd like to give on this? Hearing none, moving on to item 9F, WASBA resolutions. I'm assuming, since Dean's going to be sitting there all day, he gets the power to decide how he votes on these things. Does anyone have any objections to that, or if there's anything specific on any of these that they have some input they'd
I
like
think
to?
Dean can vote his conscience.
Represent us well, Dean.
Exactly.
Thank you.
All the power in the world.
As I said to Lisa earlier, I was the delegate the first year I was on school board. And now I'm the delegate last
With a wealth of knowledge behind
with
you now.
more knowledge than I had the first year.
Well, there's typically a reception after this. I'll meet you at after. You may need it. Item 10, information follow-up. There's a couple items listed there. Does anyone need anything specific?
Yes. I'm sorry, specific to these items?
No,
or
that's not listed.
in
These items.
Jeremiah, can you just brief us on what happened with the water at Lakeview? I know you've given us some emails, but if we could just have some more follow-up on what happened and anything we learned there, anything we can...
Yeah, the pipe froze there, the incoming water, and I would say that throughout the district, we've had some other valves break, and I think we're very fortunate to cancel school, a lot of districts did, but the incoming water pipe froze, and essentially we had a service guy in doing water tests on the well over break, so we all thought it was an issue having to do with that water test, so we kind of jumped to the conclusion that something was tripped and not set. We had a plumber come and he said, no, the actual pipe was froze. So we were able to get a really unique machine that blasted it out within minutes, and we were able to keep going. And unfortunately, it happened again the very following weekend, which is rare because we've never had a pipe freeze there. So we added a heat coil around the specific pipe and then re-insulated everything really well. So I can't remember, and I'm not very old, but I can't remember a stretch of, 14 days of sub-zero temperatures, so it was really crazy. I think over Christmas break, not that this is tied to it, but we had over 1,000 alarms just from the entire district, from sensors that go below a certain temperature. So our whole staff was busy chasing things. Boilers at test corners were milked through the whole break, so.
Is this type of thing too that, like, typically a Monday through Friday when the water is being used,
Yeah.
it's not an issue, right?
Yeah, it's not, and I don't know that we've had that cold of a Christmas break, but we do have automatic flushers in most of our schools where stuff will just continue to flush. A lot of our HVAC pulls off of the water system, so even when no one's in the building, the water is still cycling. So it was pretty random. I hadn't experienced it, and Bob, who worked there for several years before us, hadn't ever had that happen, so it was kind of an anomaly. So we did learn quick. We learned about this new machine that can really get us out of a pinch.
So how much damage was there to the pipes?
None. Thankfully, the pipes didn't burst. It was just frozen water, so.
So that blaster got rid of it before it really caused the real damage?
Yeah.
Good.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Fiber up there?
Tony, you want to give us a fiber update?
Sure. So once again, you see that there's three things that I've added to the fiber update. One of those is a direct response back to the board's request for what happened with lacrosse. Just a little more detail on that is they had expressed interest in originally doing the project and therefore turned back on it, and there was a denial by default. So once again, it wasn't that lacrosse had done anything that didn't work out, or in general, they just were not approved. So that's a good sign for us as well, that it wasn't something that they had gone with full intent and then was denied. They were just denied out of basically pulling back in the process. The E-rate inquiries, we keep getting more and more and more and more and more, and we keep responding as quickly and as well as we can. It is something that I did check with our E-rate consultant. She said this is typical, which is a good thing because there are other questions that have been atypical as others may have been denied. And they represent across the country, not just in the state of Wisconsin. And then the construction update. If you look down Racine Avenue, you'll see Intercon construction vehicles continuing to work. As I mentioned before, with the frost line dropping, that means that plowing process will most likely cease unless it really warms up for an extended period of time. Otherwise, they can continue with directional boring, which is that process of obviously boring underneath. Once the dates are set in stone for Intercon to complete the work, they'll begin the stretch that goes from Muskego Lakes Middle School to the district office, which of course is our most important stretch in terms of time sensitivity.
So how much fiber is installed at this point?
None yet. Conduit, I think they can do, let's see, 7,000 feet has been planted, but there isn't fiber in it yet. And they can do up to 2,000 feet per day. So that's essentially the extent of the work. And then again, it's contingent on approval of all permitting entities and making sure they have the dates set in place. And then they have to do locates on everything, which has to be updated on a daily basis. So we have work in the ground. It's we've made substantial steps with 7,000 feet of it, but we still have quite a bit to go.
So how many total miles are we doing?
15.
So you have just over a mile?
Yeah. Yes.
Of conduit.
Right. And again, as a reminder, the entire project should, in good weather and good form, take around 4 months of total work to complete the entire system start to finish. So, and lastly, we do not own anything until it is completed and then turned over to us. So everything is on the liability essentially is on the contractors at this point.
Any other requests or comments on information follow-up? I do want to make a comment back on the update on water. That thank the city. They did allow us. They did borrow us that unique piece of equipment.
Yeah.
So as much as they pick on us, they did help us out in this situation. So I'll give them credit for that. Moving on to item 11. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? We're adjourned at 8:55. Thank you, everyone.